Congresswoman Chelle Pingree and Willy Ritch in the back, Communications Director. Peek your head over and let everyone see you. Okay if I call you Chellie?
Absolutely.
We were recently at an event that you were speaking at, and it was Seth Goodall, I think, was saying how cool it was that the Maine way is to call our senators and congresswomen and men by their first name because it's so casual and because you're in the community with them,
Absolutely.
with people all the time.
And people will often say to me, you know, what am I supposed to call you? And I'll be like, Chellie, you know. I mean, it's a nice thing about Maine. I think we don't worry too much about titles, and particularly when it comes to politicians. I think we're just like, okay, if we like you enough, but call you by your first name, at least we've gotten that far.
Yeah. All right, so Willy, you guys have spent how many years together now? 2008?
Well, I went to work for Chellie when she was first running for Congress in 2008. Yeah.
Tell me some things
No.
that people wouldn't know about Chellie.
Well, I you know, there are certain things which will remain confidential
Who
forever.
let him in the car? I mean, what were you thinking? I didn't agree to this.
I will say, however, Aaron, the backseat of your car is much cleaner than the backseat of my car typically when I'm driving Chellie around. And that is not because I keep a dirty car. It's because she throws things in the back seat as if it's a giant recycling bin.
I just feel like that is just an unfair
You got a lot going
allegation.
on.
An unfair allegation.
But
I'm not
seriously,
that messy.
it's really been a pleasure. It's been a blast to work for Chellie, as everybody who works for her, I think, would attest.
And you're going strong.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm still here, and we do like to try to enjoy ourselves in office. It's not always as glamorous of a job as people think. So whenever we can have fun, we try to do that.
This is Phoebe.
Yeah, very nice car, very clean car, I must say.
I have to give a shout out to Jack Quirk, who owns the Fiat dealership. He was recently visiting you in DC.
Yes, actually, we are very chatty when he comes down because I have a Chevy Volt. So I'm always asking him, what do you think the
still
new
have it?
Volt is going to be like? You know, if I have a little plug-in issue. We have a lot of fun talking about that.
When you leave Maine, there are so many wonderful places. What is one thing that you miss?
Oh,
That's
gosh.
a hard
I mean, the
question. I
list
guess
is so long, really.
We've got
I
about
mean,
30 more
I'm
seconds.
lucky to work in D.C., and it's a fascinating city with lots of history, but, I mean, everything about Maine, the weather, you know, Washington is insufferably hot. We have just wonderful people here. The food is 10 times better in Maine. You don't have to get so dressed up. You know, we're a much more casual state.
Yep.
Everything about it. I love to be in Maine. I love my job. But really, when we're all on that, you know, American Airlines flight coming home on Friday afternoon, that is a happy day.
Here at Arabica Coffee, before we talk about your life in Washington, I mentioned I heard you speak at a women's entrepreneur forum on Monday. And you talked a lot about your kids and your life growing up in Maine and starting a business. So I would love to know more or share more with people about your entrepreneurial life.
Well, I think it's an important part of what keeps me grounded, and I just feel really lucky that I've been able to have a business a few times in my life, usually around farming. Now I own an inn and restaurant. So it means you get a great understanding of working with people, the challenges people have in businesses, the difficulty of owning a small business, but also I live in a very small town. I live on an island of less than 400 people. And honestly, my greatest joy has been able to be an employer of some of the people who were there for me when I was young. And who has supported me and my family all along, and to be able to say, like, now I give back to my community. And I have two daughters, both of whom live on the island. My daughter Hannah manages the business because I'm obviously away a lot, and my daughter Cecily has her own business. She runs a little pizza joint that's a wonderful community gathering place, and actually much more than a pizza joint.
It's super
just a
fun.
great place.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of them. I've learned a lot from them, but also there's a lot, you know, for women to learn from being in business. Obviously, it allows us to have unconventional times that we work. It's easier to have your kids with you. There's just a whole variety of things that make it a good fit for women. Women, you know, are really a big part of the driving engine of small businesses in our country. They're starting at a much faster rate than men. But of course, they have
challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it's much harder to get a loan at a bank. You've got to get your husband, your cousin, your ex-husband, you know, everybody you can find has to sign off on a loan. People don't always take you as seriously, but let's face it, women are, I think they're more creative, they work harder, they expect to put a lot more into it, and know it's going to take a long time to return back.
How do we change that? How can we start to move? I mean, it's 2016, right? You would think that we are hopefully making progress.
There's still a lot of challenges for women, I think, as far as we've come. I do think that having more female loan officers at banks, more women who have had these experiences. We had a panel the other day with all women who had been in business and were able to share some of their experiences. A lot of the women who are now available at SCORE, CEI, the Small Business Administration, they're women, so they can also talk to women about the unique challenges you have about balancing your life or starting out small or when to expand. But let's face it, it's still not easy to be a woman in a lot of walks of life, and business is one of those places.
How is it to be a woman in Congress?
Well, there aren't enough of us. I think we're under 20% of the entire Congress, and we should be more than 50. Of course, we're more than 50% of the voters. But I do think women bring a lot of unique characteristics to Congress. We're the ones who are, raising the kids, dealing with daycare, often taking care of our aging parent, juggling all those kinds of balls. I think we have more compassion around a lot of issues. We're better at sort of engaging each other and trying to figure out how to bring consensus and work with other people. And there's no doubt women work harder in campaigns. We don't expect to get elected. We think, we've got to do everything and then 3 times as much. So I think we make great elected officials, but there aren't enough of us.
Okay, last question. When you do get a moment to breathe and you have downtime, what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm lucky enough, my real home is on the island of North Haven, which is one of the northeast towns in my district, but that's an island. You take an hour ferry ride to get there. It's a wonderful, supportive community where I run my businesses, where my grandchildren live, and where you can be on the water. I like to be in a boat, to kayak, to swim. I love hanging out with my grandchildren. I love being on the farm. I like working in the garden. For me, wearing my jeans, having dirty hands, or just doing something out on the water is the best day you can imagine.
We live in the best state.
We do.
I mean, we really do. All those things you just mentioned, how lucky we are.
We are very lucky.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit
Absolutely.
more about
Thanks
your
for
life.
having me.
Thank you. And now we're going to turn it over to Jess Knox for our Game Changer segment supported by Red Thread and Town & Country Federal Credit Union.